Hi everybody, it's Cindy the Scrapologist. Thanks for coming and hanging out with me today. I am working on building up my ephemera supply and cleaning out my studio of any scraps that I have around. And so I thought I would just jump on and show you what I'm working on. Sometimes it's nice to have a whole bunch of ephemera ideas in one spot instead of having a video about just one piece of ephemera, which that's nice too, but that's just not what I'm doing today. So I'm going to give you about 8 or 9 ideas, I guess, in this. I'm not going to really do any tutorials, but just show you what I'm working on so that you can get some ideas for your projects. The first thing that I did, oh, and the other thing I'm trying to work on too is I do scrapbooking and I do journal making. And I don't often combine the two. I don't really use my scrapbooking supplies for my journals. I've been trying to stick just with vintage stuff from the 1800s as much as possible. But lately I've been trying to use some of my scrapbook supplies too because I found, well, I can make some really nice ephemera. So I'm focusing on using up my scrapbook supplies today, scrapbook paper, and we'll see how I do with that. But the first thing that I've been working on is I finally found another book, vintage book from the 1800s that has a border around it. And I love finding these. So what I did was I stamped ferns on these pages in different colors. That's a pretty one. Got a bunch of these, and this book had some water damage. It's got, look, I love that. Love, love, love that. So I just made some of these. Didn't make too many. I made one set for me, one set for you. So I have one set in my shop. These always just sell immediately. So I just wanted to make one for now to just throw it in my shop for one lucky person. And maybe I'll make some more later. But I made one set for me, which I get to keep this time. Yay! I sold all the other ones and then I didn't have some for myself. So that's that. I made those and that's in the shop. There's one set in the shop. Then I just started working on some collages with my scraps on vintage book pages. And when I make a journal, I take all of my little bits and pieces and I put them in here. This is a really cool basket made out of clothesline that a friend made for me, and she sewed it. I love it. And it sits right on my desk, and then when I have a scrap of fabric or something like that, even thread, it all goes in here. So when I want to make collages, it's right here and I pull it out. So I had this in there. I had a piece of doily. I had a scrap of fabric, and then and a piece of fabric here, and an image from something. I don't remember. Maybe it's a book. I had some images that I wanted to use up. And I just started just throwing some collages together. Very simple. And it's a great way to get rid of scraps. Not an original idea, of course. We all do this, but I wanted to show you what I like to do. I love this look here. And so when I have scrapbook scraps, I make them out of craft paper. And when I have in the craft color, cardstock in the craft color and black and white, when I have these strips in the craft color, I just run over to my sewing machine and make a bunch of lines. And then when I want to use them, I can just cut them out. And they're here ready to go. And then you just glue them on. I like making those. And it's a nice little supply to have around. So that's one idea for you. So I made some of these. Let me start piling all this up because my desk is getting messy. And then so in terms of using my scrapbook paper, I had a bunch of old Graphic 45 paper. They always put stamps in their kits, in their collection packs, and I had some of this as well that is about postage stamp size, and I wanted to start getting rid of this. So I sat and watched an old movie the other day. Just cut them out. Again, this is not my idea. Everybody's making these. Cut them out, put them on vintage book paper, and cut them out with my pinking shears. Cut the vintage book page out. And this is fun to do in front of the TV because you don't really have to pay too much attention. Just take a glue stick, pop it down, cut it around. The only thing I didn't do yet, which I'll show you, is I have this really nice stamp set that looks like postage due stamps, and I just need to find one. Unknown destination, this says. And I lost my stamping blocks, my acrylic stamping blocks. They are nowhere in my studio to be found. What have I done? I don't know. It's really annoying me that I can't find them. See, I just smushed that. So I've got that piece, and then I've got the little piece that there's that. So these stamps are really nice to put on faux stamps. So I have another stack downstairs, but I've started this stack here, and that's what I'll be doing with these. And I have a ton more of these. I used to really be into Graphic 45, and then I sort of got over them a little bit. They're still okay, but I started seeing a lot of repetitive stuff. Some things from that were in one kit, they'd start to put into another kit, and I was seeing a lot of the same images, so I became tired of using their papers, but they're still beautiful. I don't want to knock Graphic 45. Just for me, I got tired of the always having stamps, and anyway. What was I going to say? Oh, when I was making these stamps, I watched a fantastic movie. I don't know if any of you have checked out the Criterion channel yet, which has a lot of the old black and white restored movies and all the vintage classics and stuff. And I watched Ace in the Hole with Kirk Douglas. Really good movie. I recommend it to you. Then I had another piece of scrapbook paper that I looked through all of my mismatched sets and just started fussy cutting to see what I could get. And so these are really cool. I just cut this. This was one sheet of scrapbook paper. Look how beautiful these are. And they just look. Let me get a piece of, oops, the project I'm working on. But they look so nice on a page. And what I like about them too is they're kind of fuzzy. There's really nice texture to them. So these are all from one 12 by 12 page. So I got a lot. I got a lot from that. So one thing you might do is just look for pages that have some fussy cutting. And cut it up, and then you've got a whole bunch of embellishments there just from one page. Then, what else have I been doing? I've been making, I think I showed these to you before. I had the vintage fabric that I found recently, and I've been making the breeches. I haven't finished any of these yet because I intend to put something here like oh, where did it go? Well, I'm thinking of sewing a heart on there or putting some scrapbook embellishments right there. But I did a lot of hand sewing with a bunch of different fabrics. Doesn't look so great on the back, but this is how many I've made so far. So I've got a nice stack of those ready to go, almost ready to go. And then I cut out just some fabric squares from the vintage fabric so that those are ready to go if I want to use them for something. These would make, I could really embellish these and make journal cards out of these, sew something on the back. I don't know. Don't know what I'm going to do yet, but they're ready to go. And I have a bunch of these, which I've already shown you. And I have, here it is. I cut out a bunch of these squares from, I think this is an old tablecloth. Some of them I just cut down so that I can use them like this if I want. And these I left as is because I don't know how big I want them. But in this journal that's in my shop that I absolutely love, there's an example of what I did with this. Oh, here's one. So you can see I took 2 of the squares, well, 1 3/4, I guess, and I did some sewing around the edges. I sewed a scrapbook, a Tim Holtz piece on. I had a little piece of gauze here, or whatever I forget what you call this. Sewed a button on, and that looks really nice on a page. I did another one. Here's another one, and that one I could put sideways, and did a couple of buttons and lots of different fabric and sewing. And I could have put this not glued it on the top. It would make a really nice tuck spot. So after I made 2 of these, I thought, you know what, I'm going to make a bunch of these. So I cut out the fabric so that's ready to go in 2 separate little sizes. And then I had these scrapbook pieces, and I thought these would make really nice journal cards. So I took the journal card and backed it onto a vintage piece of paper and then put it on a piece of muslin. I really like working with muslin and having it in my journals, and sewed around the edge. And this is not done. I will probably take some pieces from here and embellish it a little bit more. But I also discovered when I turned it over, I really like this as well. So I think I'm going to take some squares of muslin and just sew a frame around it and then embellish it later. And this would look really nice on a journal too. So that's what I'm doing with these little pieces. What else do I have? Then from my scrapbook paper, I found some kind of odds and ends, but I really liked the images on them. And so these are nice because they're already kind of collaged. I'm going to collage further on them. I don't know what I'm going to do yet, but they were already cut out like this. I probably used, whatever was here. This only says Ingo instead of Bingo, so I'll probably do a ruffle of fabric up there and stick some other things from here on them and just make them into nice little collages. So you can do that too with your scrapbook scraps. And and then the last thing I did was use my silhouette cameo, and I really liked this image. It's like a leaf, and so I started to cut out. I've got to go back and fix my machine and do some more, but I started to cut out a bunch of these. I used these on a page for a journal I'm making, and I thought that they looked really nice. Need to just vintage it up a little bit because the page is quite white, but so I'm going to cut out a bunch of those on a variety of vintage papers and have those ready to go as well. So that's about it. These are some different ideas for you. Oh, and one more thing. I'm going to sit and make a bunch of these with my glue gun. A bunch of these seals, because these make really nice embellishments too. So there's my pile, and then what I will do when I'm done is I have a flat table over on one wall of my studio, and I put everything in piles so that when I need something I can go and like pick, almost like it's set up almost like a store, which is really a lot of fun. So I hope this gives you some ideas. I thank you very much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.